football fans, and welcome to the Onside Kick. My name is Ricky Widmer, and as always, I'm joined by Dave Oster.
Hey, guys.
And Mark Weber.
How's it going?
And this week, we had a jam-packed show. We got DeSean Jackson released from the Eagles, a group of running backs being signed by numerous teams. Mark Sanchez finds a home, Johnny Manziel's pro day. But, guys, we're going to start with DeSean Jackson, and some people are surprised that the Philadelphia Eagles decided to release him today. I'm not, because I was watching Around the Horn, and they were talking about it. And Kalishaw said, don't be surprised if he's released, because when players are like, oh, I'm happy where I am, they could be released, and that's what happened today. When you guys heard DeSean Jackson no longer with Philly, what were your first thoughts?
My first thought was, kind of saw it coming. Last season, it seemed like it didn't seem like everybody was happy between DeSean and Chip Kelly's new Eagles. So it kind of felt like he was going to be pushed out, and he was, in fact, pushed out. So I wasn't entirely surprised. I was a little surprised when he said that he was happy and he wanted to stay there and everything. That seemed strange. Might as well have just, I don't know, I guess it's a way of dodging the question. But I'm excited to see where he goes. He's going to be a fun guy. He's one of those late wide receivers, because there's some teams that still need to get that, maybe a number one, number two type of weapon.
Yeah, you got to remember, this guy last year was responsible for about 70% of this Eagles offense when Foles got in the game. I mean, he was a huge part, put up career numbers, and to me, it comes down to money. They just didn't want to pay the man.
Do you think it's money?
I think a huge part of it is money. I think his personality.
I think it's more the personality.
I got like 65-35 on money over personality. I think he's due for a massive payday. Coming off that career year and that Chip Kelly offense. He's a straight-up burner, and that's fantastic. He's got good hands, good body positioning going down the field. I mean, he's a top talent, but that personality does weigh him down.
See, and I think, like I said, more personality, because you said he was owed a little bit of money, $10.5 this upcoming year, and was owed $30.5 million over the remainder of his contract, but none of the money was guaranteed.
Right.
None of it was guaranteed. I think of it more as kind of like, look at what happened with Steve Smith in Carolina. It's the personality, Chip Kelly, DeSean Jackson not getting together. And one of the things I thought of right when he was released was a few weeks ago, the Eagles were like, oh, we're going to release him if we can't find a trade for him. Well, why even say that? Because now no teams are going to be like, yeah, let's trade for DeSean, because you're just going to release him if you can't.
It's mostly contract at that point. Do you want to keep him on that contract? Do you think you can restructure it with him? Or do you just want to go ahead and wipe the board clean and try to make a new contract, which could turn out to be even pricier coming off that career year? You could be looking at paying him $12 million instead of the $10, or the restructured whatever you could work out.
It's interesting right now because you have teams like the Eagles, teams like Carolina that you mentioned, that are getting rid of somebody who was the biggest part of that offense, essentially, at least receiving-wise. Yet they don't really have anyone replacing them. I mean, you have 3 years left with DeSean Jackson. Steve Smith, he would have been fine for another year. Why get rid of them so soon? That's one thing that I just personally don't quite grasp. For DeSean, too, he fits perfectly in a Chip Kelly type of system. He's just a speedy guy. That's exactly what you want. And I don't know for sure you're going to go and grab one of those guys in the draft.
Yeah, his performance last year was phenomenal. I loved watching the Chip Kelly offense. As much of a hater I was of the whole, we're going to snap the ball every 19 seconds or 7, whatever. Every 10 seconds. His ridiculous comment to start the season was.
Yeah, but they didn't snap it every 10 seconds.
Not
but
even close.
Look at the success they had.
And that's what I enjoyed
his
watching.
Mindset.
And the unspoken hero of that offense was by far Shady. I mean, he was a workhorse. He was catching the ball. He was running out of the backfield.
Well, I just think he was put in a system that gave him
exactly.
success.
That's what I'm saying. Like, It was built around him. And
then when you have a guy like Nick Foles.
Well, Nick Foles was a surprise. It was built around
Manning.
Mike Vick, really. Mm-hmm. And then Nick Foles was like, what's he going to do? Wow, this kid can play. I mean, it was kind of a surprise, and he really played fantastically. So this Eagles offense, where they're going to lean to, I don't know, because they've got Riley Cooper still. They've got an okay tight end. But after that, it's like, okay, are we just running the ball, throwing screen passes all day?
Well, and I mean, with DeSean Jackson, to get back to him, the teams that are going on all day today that people thought that, okay, they're going to be in the prime running for them. Carolina, Kansas City, the Jets, Raiders, Seahawks, and Niners. Right now, though, at this point in time, we're down to 3. Chiefs, Jets, Raiders, top 3 teams for DeSean Jackson.
Ghost of Al Davis wants him bad.
Yeah, you can see that speed. He's a fast guy. But I think it would be interesting to see him on the Jets just because I would like to see, the Michael Vick and DeSean Jackson again. That's fun to see. It makes the most sense for him to go to the Chiefs, though.
Because of Andy Reid.
Exactly. I mean, he's got that connection there. It's easy. Andy Reid, he can just go ahead, call him up. Might even have his personal line, give him a little personal touch to there, and say, hey, I need somebody because Dwayne Bowe, that's all I got.
Well, yeah. And I mean, an interesting thing thrown out there. You say that Andy Reid might have DeSean's personal line. Well, a report, Joe Reedy from Fox Sports Ohio, he even said Marvin Lewis from Cincinnati knows DeSean's family personally. So, I mean, maybe the Bengals, a late kind of steal to sign DeSean Jackson. We don't know where he's going to go. That's the big
these
thing.
Are just the leading 3 candidates right now. A lot of teams have confirmed that they're not interested.
Like the Bucs. The Bucs are one where Tampa Bay Times have said 0 chance the Bucs get DeSean Jackson.
Well, because Lovie Smith, no offense.
There you go. Lovie Smith, he's not a good character guy. There were the rumors regarding DeSean Jackson, possible gang affiliations. So right there, Lovie Smith's like, can't have it, locker room poison. If the guy doesn't come out of a church, I'm sorry, like he has to be immaculate, no possible background issues. That's just Lovie Smith. As a Chicago fan, that's what it is.
Well, and I mean, one of the other things, and I'm getting all this information from WalterFootball.com, Bill Voth, a Panthers reporter, he said that Panthers remain not interested in DeSean Jackson and that Rivera was actually checking out for a Cal guy but wasn't aware of the gang story.
Well, the thing is, for the Panthers, they lose so much on that offense, and they're not replacing it. I don't understand that. They have nobody for Cam Newton to throw to yet again. Right now, his leading receiver on that team is Greg Olsen, the tight end, he's a talented receiving tight end, but he's not Jimmy Graham.
Mm-hmm.
He's not Gronkowski. So it doesn't make sense. I don't understand what they're doing out there in the land of the claw.
Claw up.
I just don't get it. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. And I think if you're any of these teams that doesn't understand what's going on and who you're going to throw the ball to, you can't at least make the phone call. And maybe they did make a phone call and it was, oh, you want that much? Okay. Thank you for your time. And that was all it is. But it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, this is a team that directionally they were heading up. I mean, they've got that stout defense. Cam Newton was finally turning the corner and it looked like he was finally getting his mind right. Pushed the team into the late playoffs, and it's like, what are you doing to him now? I mean, you're watching the team just break away chunk by chunk.
They didn't have much on offense last year, so then you go and take all of that away.
Yeah, they were the 29th team as far as passing yards go, so it's not too fantastic
Mark,
already.
like you were saying with the Panthers, they lose 4 wide receivers to free agency. Steve Smith, Ravens. Brandon LaFell, Patriots. Ted Ginn Jr., Cardinals. Dominic Hickson, Bears. And they only bring in Jericho Cotry and Taquan Underwood, and take that with the only player right now on their roster is Marvin McNutt. And you have 3 wideouts and Greg Olsen. That's what you have.
Yeah, and those aren't really wide receivers you're going to be excited about. With the list of names, you probably have a lot of people going, don't know any of them.
I mean, if you don't know Marvin McNutt, I mean, I feel bad for you, but I think they're going to have to just absolutely blow out as far as this coming draft, and then pick up whatever scraps are left in free agency. I mean, there's still guys who are NFL caliber wide receivers who are available. You need to fill out that roster. I mean, I understand at this point you're not going to go out and get a number 1 weapon, but you still have to do something. You can't just forfeit your passing game and be like, Cam, carry us to the playoffs on your own.
Exactly. I think there are some guys, like you said, especially in the draft. Hell, why not? You got 2, your first round pick, go get yourself a wide receiver. Second round pick, somebody's still there, just go take them. You need somebody. I mean, we've seen, it doesn't happen all the time, but we've seen young wide receivers do fantastic things in the NFL recently.
It's an immediate impact position You come in, you show promise, you get playing time on the field. All you got to do is go out and catch the ball. Sounds super easy. Obviously not. I mean, it's kind of whatever.
Well,
but
and I think of the one person this past season who was a rookie coming in that did pretty well in my book, Keenan Allen with the Chargers.
Yeah, Keenan Allen really came out of nowhere because he was really unhappy early on not being a starter. He was ready to walk away. He's like, yeah, this is stupid. I can't play. I'm done here. And then gets his chance due to injuries above him, comes out an absolute star. Like, he lit it up on the field. And you just saw that offense start to click, gain momentum, and you just saw Phillip Rivers of old. I mean, I thought Phillip Rivers was done, but Keenan Allen kind of re-energized him. And as far as the draft goes, there is a lot of talent at wide receiver that is expected to go in the first round. Of course, you got Sammy Watkins and Mike Evans, who are going to end up being maybe 5 to 12 range as far as picks go. But you still have Odell Beckham Jr., Brandon Cooks, Marquise Lee, Kelvin Benjamin, who could all fall down to that 28 slot. So, I mean, you have a lot, at least probably 5 to 6 people as far as wide receivers go, who all could go in the first round. And, I mean, that would be something to really see. So they're not absolutely out of luck. Kelvin Benjamin is a guy who could step in and be a number one. He has the size. He's got the strength. And what he did at Florida State this past year was absolutely amazing. So, but you have to go, how much of that was on him? How much was on his quarterback? So it is a bonus, but I think he's got the makeup to be a fantastic wide receiver in the NFL.
But Dave, the one thing I will say about Benjamin is, yes, he did play with famous Jameis at Florida State this year, but he did also play with E.J. Manuel, so he had 2 great quarterbacks.
Wow.
I mean, E.J. Manuel, he was a good quarterback in college. I mean, the NFL, he wasn't terrible with the Bills.
He had some injury issues.
He spent most of the time on the bench.
But, I mean, he has played with 2 great quarterbacks at the college level.
So wide receivers are kind of stacked right now. There is some depth there. I think if they did do 2 wide receivers in the first 3 rounds, they would put themselves in a pretty good position. It's asking a lot of those young guys, but I think Cam Newton is somebody who he's still in their age bracket, so he's not like old man on campus. Mm-hmm. I think he could connect with them pretty quickly and pull them together.
Well, one of the things I find interesting, and this goes back to DeSean Jackson, is if the Chiefs, let's say the Chiefs signed DeSean, right now in Mel Kiper's mock, he has Odell Beckham Jr. going to the Chiefs. Well, if they sign DeSean, maybe they pass up on Beckham.
Yeah, you don't need him.
And then the Panthers, if you were...
I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt.
Would you pick Beckham or Benjamin if you were the Panthers?
You know, honestly, I think I might want Benjamin. I really like to watch him play. He's a bigger guy. Obviously, he's going to help out a lot. And what do we know here in Chicago? Just throw it up. Get that tall guy and just put it up there.
Absolutely. You're going to go get dominated by a 6'3" corner if you go play out in the West Coast.
Well, and I mean, one of the things, one of the receivers I didn't bring up, because to be honest, I'm watching the film right now, and he's got a bit of the dropsies, is Marquise Lee. I feel like if all 3 are available, you go with Benjamin first. If he's not there, Beckham, and then if you have to, Lee, because... I mean, one of the biggest knocks on Beckham Jr. is going to be he's 5'11". That's short. But Wes Welker's short, and look at what he's doing. I mean, so is Marquise Lee.
Wes Welker's had 2 of the best quarterbacks thrown to him.
Yeah, but if you're put
Wes Welker is a nobody, and
if
I
you're
think
put
he's got
in the right
Tom Brady
situation,
syndrome.
you can do well.
He's got Tom Brady syndrome. Look at what Tom Brady worked with. They go out and get contracts somewhere else and absolutely can't perform. It's just... You're around talent. It makes you better.
Wes Welker's lucky that he then goes to Peyton Manning for that one. But I think for Marquise Lee, he's one of those guys where people aren't really expecting him to go in the first round. Some people are.
You don't think he's going to go late first round?
I don't. I wouldn't be surprised if he falls out into the second round.
If you had to put money on it right now, are you saying he's a late first rounder, early second rounder? If you had to put money on it.
I would say second round.
See, I give him a second round grade, but I think he's going in the first. I absolutely believe Marquise Lee doesn't fall out of this first round. There's enough teams with a need for wide receiver this year. I just can't see him falling. There's a chance. I mean, like I said, it's a deep pool, and there's a lot of guys close. Once you break away from Sammy and Mike, there's a big gap in I don't want to say skill, but it's those two up there, and they're top, and then you got a lot of guys who are really good. So no shame in that.
Well, and I mean, the one thing, and that kind of just brings me up to the quarterbacks, is we've heard Mel Kiper Jr. and Todd McShay bring up that some people say no quarterback should go in the first round. Some people say that there should be an abundance of quarterbacks. And, I mean, it all goes on with me. I'm looking at that Browns pick, and I'm like, are they going to go Derek Carr, or are they going to go with a wide receiver and another wideout that could be there if the Browns decide to go quarterback? Brandon Cooks, the wideout from Oregon State.
I don't know. Why would they go for Derek Carr? Do you mean with that second pick?
With the 26th pick. If they don't go quarterback with their earlier pick and decide to go Derek Carr at the 26th overall.
I mean, it's a solid option. If you can get a wide receiver, one of the top wide receivers, and then he's not going to be one of the top quarterbacks, but a guy who's
like a
up
Sammy
there.
Watkins.
Yeah, if you can pull that off, that's pretty impressive. And just think about, who else is in your state. Cincinnati, who's making Dalton look really good out there? AJ Green.
And Brandon Cooks is a speedster. I mean, he's 5'9", ran a 4.33 40. This is going to be your slot guy. He's going to be over the middle, which opens up things because you have a fantastic tight end. You've got good wide receiver on the outside. I think it fits out their offense really well, and then they can kind of see what they have at quarterback. I don't know if they necessarily need to blow a draft pick this year, but I think they're setting up their offense to succeed regardless of who it is, and maybe they can go out and get that ideal quarterback in the future, or maybe they can go out and spend a late pick and build them up,
Well, and one of the things, just to move on to the other signings that happened this week, one of the big ones is we had a ton of running backs go off the board. We had Maurice Jones-Drew, 3-year deal to the Raiders. LeGarrette Blount, he goes to the Steelers, and then Noshawn Moreno signing a little bit of a deal with the Miami Dolphins. Which one of these running backs do you feel, when you saw these deals, it was like, okay, I like this deal. It's solid.
Honestly, I like LeGarrette's deal because he just fits. Like, you say Steelers, I'm still back in the days of the bus. I want that smash mouth football, just run up the gut. He doesn't have quite the shape that Bettis has, but you know what? LeGarrette Blount, what we saw him do last season late was just really, really good. He had such physicality driving into the line, and then at second push, his legs kept churning. He's got a good base, and I honestly think that this fits perfectly. Last year, they were really lacking. They were hoping one of the younger guys was going to step up. It just didn't happen because of injuries. So.
Well, and I mean, you have LaLe'Veon Bell. He's the starter. Yeah. And one of the things I think of that Thursday night game. I think it was the Thanksgiving game against the Raiders where he goes to punch it in the end zone. He's injured. Bad injury. And even if Bell does get injured, boom, you have a proven backup, a veteran backup behind him.
Yeah, I think LeGarrette is going to end up being a touchdown vulture, a short down guy, but he could even grow into more of a sharing role of a split back system.
So you're saying fantasy owners should probably stay away from Bell a little bit?
I'm saying LaDavion Bell's touchdowns are probably going to be longer. They're going to be longer than 5 yards. I think if you get in that red zone, you get really deep goal line, it's going to go to Blount.
You know what I like about running back by committee? I like MJD plus DMC.
Okay.
I like them both because
you got some old legs there.
You got old legs, but hey, this is what they need. I mean, DMC's constantly getting injured. This is what he needs. He needs somebody to take it off of him a little bit. When you get these two old guys, put them together, let them play kind of split downs there, you start to get a younger...
Their top running back last year was a fullback. I mean...
Yeah, that's a little sad. But I mean, for Oakland, they had the money to spend. They go out there and they're spending it right now.
Yeah,
Obviously, you get these two guys, put them together, let them split those downs, and they can go out and have a whole season, finally, for guys who both were really good not too long ago.
Absolutely. I think it's a smart move by the Raiders. It's an insurance move. I'm surprised that they went out and got somebody who also has had a little injury recently, so that one's interesting. But I think MJD's still got 1 year of being a running back left in him, and if you split carries, maybe you could stretch it to 2. I'm afraid that like they're just gonna hit a train of injuries and go down one after the other, and they're gonna be back just SOL.
Well, and I mean, one of the things that I just feel about Jones-Drew is he needed a change of scenery. Being in Jacksonville that long, I mean, he endured more suffering than any one player should for playing for Jacksonville for so long.
It's rough. Jacksonville's a tough place to be. And he's got to be feeling pretty good to get out. Mm-hmm. Oakland's not much better.
Well, and I mean, with Oakland right now, I was reading an article on ESPN where they graded all the free agent, like teams for free agency, and the only F was the Oakland Raiders. And I mean...
That's because they weren't done yet.
I feel like with Oakland, you get Matt Schaub, and now you have 2 running backs who, like we said, could pose some injury problems, but they're 2 proven running backs. That's what I'm saying. 2 proven guys. Now, if you maybe later in the draft, I'm talking like 4th, 5th to 7th round, get a running back to be that 3rd guy, maybe special teamer, you've got a complete quarterback, running back core.
And Matt Schaub needs a good running back there. If he doesn't have one, we saw it last year, he's going to struggle.
Yeah, I mean, Ben Tate did a good job, but there's no really replacing Arian Foster.
I don't know. I think a lot of Schaub's issues came from the system, and regardless of, even if you lose your top running back, just there's a lack of control by the quarterback in that system. So I think he was kind of limited down to be like, okay, well, I'm forced to do X play because we're, in this setup.
It's 3rd and 10. We're going to, go for the screen pass.
Yeah, I mean, it's predictable, and he couldn't make audible calls as much as he wanted, maybe. So I'm really curious to see what they're going to let him do. It could be fun.
Well, and I mean, I'm just going to throw it out there. The Texans, to me, smartest trade ever to get rid of Schaub, because now we're never going to know.
Because they got something for him.
Well, not just that. We're never going to know the true answer of, was it because Schaub was bad, or was it because Gary Kubiak wasn't a good head coach?
I think it's a little bit of both. I don't necessarily say Gary Kubiak's a bad head coach.
It's not the best.
But the thing that he did well was just methodical moving teams. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I guess it doesn't win you championships, because that team was championship caliber, even with Matt Schaub, not so great of a quarterback. We all know that not so great quarterbacks can win Super Bowls every now and then. So, they probably should have won a Super Bowl. So we'll see what happens with Bill O'Brien. Maybe he's the guy who can get him over the hump.
Well, and I can't help but laughing because I have to bring this up. I'm looking at the comments on the MJD signing, top 1. With McFadden and MJD on the roster, who will start the other 14 games at running back?
I mean, there you go. It's sad to say, but it's something you got to consider.
Well, and I mean, the last running back deal that we haven't talked about, no Sean Moreno. He just went on to lose in the Super Bowl. Now he's with the Miami Dolphins on a 3-year deal.
Yeah, huge step backwards team-wise.
$3 million deal 1 year.
But I think he'll get more of a... I know he was a starting role last year, but he sort of got faded out by Monty Ball, and it turned into running back by committee. I don't know what to expect out of this year. He didn't have necessarily a bad season, but he's definitely not performing like everyone had expected him to coming out.
Well, and I mean, looking at Miami right now, they have Lamar Miller and they have Daniel Thomas. Daniel Thomas was a guy last year in the preseason where everyone was like, is he going to get the starting job? Because he does have Fumbalaya issues, and both of them just split time last season.
Every running back in Denver had some fumble issues.
Exactly.
Many fumble issues.
The only issue with that Denver offense was just the running back turnover ratio. I mean, by stat-wise, Moreno had a great year, but you got to keep in mind, it's a Peyton Manning offense. What are those numbers going to look like without him?
And now he goes to play with Ryan Tannehill.
He does. He plays with the Tannehill family. I think it's interesting here. I don't think, out of the 3 guys, I think this is the worst one. He goes to the... I don't want to call them the least talented team because they have more talent than the Oakland Raiders, but I think Joe Philbin's probably on the way out.
Well,
I think there's going to be some turnover, and I think Sean's just... He's past the prime.
I agree with you on the Philbin comment only because of what happened to the Dolphins last season. I feel like there's a lot of analysts, news reporters that kind of have an inkling of, if you let what happened last year with the incognito Martin thing to happen in your locker room, you're not an effective head coach, because it's like you should at least know what's going on in your own locker room. That's why I agree with you. He might be on the way out.
He needed those TV cameras so he could fire them in his office. On live TV. Actually, it wasn't live, but still on TV.
But I don't know. I feel like, me personally, no Sean Moreno. We're going to see, he is going to, I will say, going to be the starter in Miami, but he's not going to have that successful of a season
I
because
think his stat line will match up.
Well, he's not playing with Peyton Manning anymore.
Yep.
I think that's the biggest thing. And I mean, another quarterback this week that got a starting job, Mark Sanchez, gets released from the Jets. Now he's in Philly.
Well, I don't know about starting job.
Mark Sanchez came out and said, and I quote, "I've always wanted to start."
He's going to be competing against record-setting quarterback Nick Foles for that.
Yeah, you can't forget about this. Nick Foles went out there and he holds the same record as Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning's kind of a big deal.
Some would say
that
Nick
he's the
Foles
next
is
coming.
You could say they're equals at that point.
You could, and you could say that he's only one Super Bowl ring off from tying Peyton Manning. You could say that. Now, I think Mark Sanchez definitely stands a chance. He's going to compete. We said it last week. A couple of us in this room, not Ricky, think that Mark Sanchez still has a chance. There's still some opportunity there for him. Is it in Philly? I don't see it in Philly because I think they're going to go full in on Nick Foles. And if they don't go with Nick Foles, they're going to get a guy who can run the Chip Kelly ideal system.
Well, I'm sorry, Nick Foles just touchdown interception, 27-2. That's stupid. I mean, just stupid.
This is the one thing I like. If you read the ESPN article about it, they compare Mark Sanchez to Tim Tebow. And the fact is, Sanchez once sat there and watched the Jets introduce the backup quarterback. Well, this time Sanchez played that role as Nick Foles sat there and watched the Eagles introduce, okay, we're signing, here's your backup. But then Sanchez calling Foles incredible talent, but much like Tebow saying he never indicated he'd be happy with settling for the number 2 job.
And I think it's good for him that Mark Sanchez has that 1-year deal, because if it doesn't go well, you can leave.
Exactly. And I think at this point, Foles will only lose that starting job by injury. I mean, he had such a spectacular season last year, and I think Chip Kelly's offense is going to continue going upwards. My only concern is that wide receiver loss of DeSean Jackson. Even with that, I think he can pull in some talent and keep it rolling. So Sanchez, this is like a year break for him. Go ahead, get yourself collected, rebuild your throwing motion. Try to, I want to say it was like so much physical damage to him and mental damage playing in New York. He absolutely was abused by defenses and by the media. I mean, that kind of spotlight, especially with the Tebow circus.
Yeah, plus he was in Tebow's shadow for so long.
He just needs to get himself mentally right, and then physically, he was never a star quarterback. He's a guy who's going to go out there and be a game manager. As much as I hate that sentence. But.
Here's the question.
So, like A.J. McCarron, what we're hearing about him being a game manager quarterback?
I think McCarron could be a dark horse.
Maybe he'll be a gamer. He'll just win. But here's the question. Does Mark Sanchez take his shirt off and run around the football field?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
I hope he does.
No
That's
doubt
what's going
about
to get
it.
him on the media.
I do like the beard. I'll be honest with you. I think it looks gritty. Nick Foles has got like the baby face going.
Well, he's the All-American.
Well,
corn-fed.
One of the things that I'm going to bring up with Sanchez to Foles is I feel like the Eagles, one of the reasons, not the only one, but one of them, why they made this signing was to give Foles like, okay, here, you have some competition in the offseason. To kind of give him that, like, don't take this job for granted. Because, I mean, Matt Barkley, is anyone expecting him to take the job from Foles? No.
Could.
But when you insert a guy like Mark Sanchez, who has started in this league before, I think it's just the Eagles saying,
Not only started, he took them to the playoffs 2 years in a row.
I think it's them saying no.
Defense took them to the playoff. He was just along for the ride. I think.
Well, they also did have LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yeah, there was a lot of things going right there. I think this honestly, because you bring up Matt Barkley, I think this is more of a we don't believe in you. They don't believe in Matt Barkley and the future of the team as a backup quarterback. They got nothing for him.
Yeah, he really didn't shine last year. I mean, 0 touchdowns, 4 picks, 3 fumbles. He played in 4 games, but it's still not really anything to be happy about. I mean, that's really just a terrible performance.
But hey, they're collecting USC quarterbacks, so that's good.
Yeah. I guess Sanchez forms as a decent backup. I think it's just the old quarterback switcheroo. They're like, you guys took Vic, we'll take Sanchez. And
it's a perfect trade.
Yeah.
You know,
would anybody ever?
They'll exchange secrets about the teams.
Would you ever expect Vic for Sanchez to be a trade?
No.
Yeah, it kind of blows your mind a little.
Especially too, because when one would be good, obviously Sanchez wasn't around during the first good Mike Vick times, but when one is good, the other one's not. That's what I like to see.
Well, now to stay in the AFC East, another signing going on with the New England Patriots. Vince Wilfork remaining a Patriot, 3-year deal. Best way I can explain it out of the Twitter of Colin Cowherd. It's a 3-year, 3 AFC East titles deal.
Yeah, and this one kind of took me as a surprise because Vince kind of took himself away from the franchise and was like, look, not really happy here. I'm almost ready to walk away from it. He took a little break, came back, and he's like, you know what? I'll stay. I mean, and situation-wise, Patriots did pretty well for themselves in free agency so far. Bringing back that big piece in the middle of the defense, I mean, it's a smart move, but it's a no-brainer. Like, of course you want him to come back. Come on. So what if he got hurt last year? He was still, like, the heart of the defense.
Yeah, that defense is actually looking pretty good right now, especially with Revis out there as well. They got some scary pieces. It's obvious right now the Patriots are saying, hey, don't forget about us. We know that Peyton Manning's over there making some noise in Denver, but we're still here, and we're going to win at least one more Super Bowl with this, what we have, the Belichick and Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Get one more out there.
Well, and I mean, one of the most important things that I see is Wilfork even sent out a Twitter picture himself of just his thoughts on it. And one of the most important things in this paragraph of thoughts that he has is when he says, my intentions have never changed 10 years ago. My goal was to retire as a Patriot. And as I sit here typing this, I'm closer to achieving that goal.
It really makes me happy. I like when players do that. I was almost a little saddened by Urlacher's leaving because it had such a little distaste because, we don't really want to pay you that much. So if you want to come back here, take chump change, or, go screw yourself in free agency. Well, and then he, a couple weeks ago, went, all right, I guess I'll retire.
Well, and I mean, that's a perfect comparison because, I mean, even in his thoughts, he says that negotiations can be tough and it's never easy, especially when you've been with a franchise so long and you have relationships and friendships and I would understand that probably Robert Kraft and Wilfork have a strong relationship together.
They are very close, yes.
And I mean, think about it this way. You are negotiating a new contract with your boss, and your boss happens to be your friend. That's the way I see it.
And one of the reasons why they say you don't work with your friends. It's interesting because obviously it's good to have Wilfork back in a Patriots uniform. And bringing up the Brian Urlacher thing, that's the other side of it. When you're towards the end of your career, you might not realize that. You get offered a contract. It's the only team willing to give you anything. It's not what you think. You think you're worth more. Turns out you're not.
And then you become a TV analyst and rip the Bears for not being loyal.
And you get upset about people not having loyalty.
Yeah, and there you go. And I mean, you got the same situation. Steve Smith, fortunately, still had another year in him at least, so he went over to the Ravens. But him leaving Carolina, it just turned into such a drama, and I feel like it's gonna take fans in Carolina to maybe a year after he retires, be like, all right, we're okay with this, I don't want to go back.
You got that kid that cried.
Well, you do have that kid that cried. But I want almost as far back as Favre. Could you imagine if Favre went out at the end of his time in Green Bay and just called it quits and didn't drag us through the Jets, didn't drag us through the Vikings?
He wasn't dragging us through that first year with the Vikings. I'd rather go to the NFC Championship game and lose than not go there at all.
Bears finished him the next year. Yeah. And, I mean, he went out in Favre tradition on that Super Bowl run that he made with the Vikings.
You're talking about when he lost to the Saints in the NFC?
Via an interception.
Beautiful interception.
That's the only way Favre goes down in my mind.
You mean the bounty gate that lost him that game.
That he had like a super broken leg. Yeah.
INT.
But yeah, no, that's how I envisioned Favre's career ending, was on an INT anyway. So I just pretend that half season didn't happen after.
It doesn't matter. Then it ended on a sack, so that works too.
But how many years do you think need to pass before like he can go back to Green Bay and be beloved for all he gave them?
And they're getting there, but it's still
because I think Rodgers' success is the problem. Yeah. I think if they were suffering, they would have been like, "Oh, Brad, we love you."
It helps a little bit for that because they're like, "Oh, we got a Super. You know, it's okay. We got a Super Bowl over here now, so we're fine."
Fear the beard. The Brett Favre, the big gray beard that he has
He turned into Santa Claus, like overnight.
A ripped Santa Claus. He's got those
He got that
huge
country
guns,
strength.
and then bam.
He's country strong.
He's got those Wrangler jeans.
Always wearing Wranglers. But he's been replaced as the Wrangler man.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah. Isn't Drew Brees now the new Wrangler guy?
Yeah, and Drew Brees is the Wrangler man.
Now, if only Drew Brees will retire, come out of retirement, retire again, move to a new team, etc.
Two new teams.
Yeah, well, he has to go out of conference, then come back and play for like the Bucks.
Yeah. Hey, it'd be fun.
Well, and now we're bringing up quarterbacks. Let's just talk about it because I know Dave wants to talk about it. Johnny Manziel's pro day happened this week. I'm watching it right now, the little bit of replay. The best part about it, in my mind, not just that he's wearing pads during the pro day, the blasting rap music. Like, you know what? I'm going to get my groove on while I complete these passes.
And you know what? I've never seen a quarterback do so much to improve. Like, his stock had skyrocketed right at the beginning, and then I was like, start questioning his personnel and all this stuff. And then his pro day comes around, and what does he do? Okay, first off, you get an ex-president and first lady to show up to your pro day. 30 out of 32 teams attended it. He personally greeted scouts and everyone who came to watch and was like, hey, come watch me sit back. I'm going to be awesome out here. Just watch me do my thing. And then, yeah, it's just his environment. He was totally comfortable the whole time. And at the end of it, his ending interview questions and everything, I'm like, this guy's a star. Like, just for the love of God, somebody draft him already so I can watch him play. Absolutely phenomenal day. And, yeah, I think he set a precedent. He was the first guy to actually practice in pads for a pro day. Very cool idea. It sets himself apart from the rest of the competition.
This is an interesting one. It's obviously well rehearsed, and it shows the kind of issue with pro days and why even the Browns were just talking about it, why they don't care much about these pro days because like it's well rehearsed. We already saw all of it, and we can invite who we want, and we can watch the tape. So I mean, this is interesting where you have blasting the rap music, wearing your pads. He was obviously prepared to do that. All these things. I love the pads because it does show anytime any quarterback has a better pro day than Johnny Manziel, which will be hard to do, you always have one more thing. But Johnny did it in pads.
Exactly. And that's something that does slightly change your performance. I mean, you're not going to be the same throwing motion with pads on as pads off. Your vision's limited wearing a helmet. I mean, there's all these little things to consider.
And there's that great little slight on everybody else of, well, the game is played in pads.
Exactly. Why would I practice without wearing these if that's what we're going to be doing during the game? I mean, come on.
And I even like having former President George W. Bush come out and watch. Because what does that do? Straight connection to Texas. Who's got that number one pick? Houston Texans.
Good call. Good call.
And I don't think Bush is. I think he is a Dallas Cowboys fan. But still, I mean, obviously, it's still strong. Although I would love to see. I would hate it, but I think it'd be fun to see him play in a Dallas Cowboys uniform.
Oh, yeah, Jerry Jones would just explode with happiness.
Well, and one of the things, and this is what I think about after seeing Manziel's pro day, is last week on First Take, we had Merrill Hodge, ESPN NFL analyst, come in, and he said, and I quote, Johnny Manziel will be he has bust written all over him, especially if he's drafted in the first round.
Well, there's no way Manziel doesn't go in the first round after this. I'm sorry. Let's be practical. It's just not going to happen in this day's NFL. Second, I think Bill O'Brien is probably crapping his pants right now. I mean, he came out and made that whole, we're not sure where we're going to take our quarterback, but, we're okay with where we're at.
Well, you know what?
And I just see that as Manziel comes out and does this, and he's like, well, now the spotlight's on you, Bill. Your move.
See, I don't know. I feel like with John, do I love Johnny Manziel? Yes. Am I saying this because I probably want him to fall to number 8 to the Vikings? Yes, there's a little bias there. But I feel like this quarterback class, because there's no Andrew Luck, there's no Robert Griffin, there's no Cam Newton, There's not that one guy that's like, okay, boom, he's going to be the number 1 pick. We know it. It's going to be, okay, do we want to take a guy like Manziel, Bridgewater, or Bortles that's going to be a top 5 pick, top 10 pick? Or do we wait? Do we take a guy like Logan Thomas who's doing better? A winner like A.J. McCarron? Do we go for a Jimmy Garoppolo? What do we do?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of late quarterbacks who had success in college, but just they weren't able to showcase it at the top stage sometimes, or they weren't receiving all the credit for their performance in the case of A.J. McCarron. So there's some interesting moves they could make late, but I still think I'm just concerned with, okay, Manziel's proven he wins games, he extends plays, he has great presence in the pocket. Sometimes he does make the foolish, I'm going to try to make this play, I'm going to try to run around in circles so long that somebody will get open. I mean, that'll happen. But,
Russell Wilson.
But the thing is, Russell Wilson benefits from a fantastic team.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just saying Russell Wilson does it,
yeah, though. He does, and it's ugly, and I hate every time he turns his back to his wide receivers.
Yeah.
But I see Johnny Manziel doing the same exact thing. If Johnny Manziel's going to be lucky, he's going to fall. And he's going to go to a team that might have an offensive line put together.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he ends up in, maybe it's Oakland, maybe it's Jacksonville, a team where he's
I
going
pray
to
to the
get
gods
hurt.
he is not in Jacksonville. I'm sorry, Jacksonville, but I don't want to see this happen.
I don't know. It would be fun to see him in Jacksonville. It gives fans a reason to go to Jacksonville's games again.
That's true. They could make it a whole season without a blacked out game.
And I will say that I don't think Johnny Manziel is going to be a bust, but I think there's such a high potential for injuries and interceptions that it makes you nervous. I think he'll be a fine quarterback in the NFL. I just don't know how long his shelf life is.
See, and that's my question: is Merrill Hodges coming into this already just looking down on him? And I'm like, the only knock against Manziel is, I think, his maturity. In my case, I see him as a complete all-around quarterback. Obviously, the height isn't ideal. We've seen quarterbacks overcome that year after year, though. I'm not worried about it. His play style needs to change slightly. He's right now running aggressively at players because they're all the same size.
Style.
They're all the same size. So it's like, I don't care. If he makes the adjustments to the NFL like Russell Wilson did, like Andrew Luck has done, being smart, sliding, going to the sidelines, I think I'm just confused on why Merrill Hodge is so anti-Manziel. I don't understand the massive downside that he foresees. I see a kid who has a higher than average chance of injury as far as in running plays, but a lot of quarterbacks these days are shifting to that, and I think that's just become an expected risk that you're going to take.
See, I honestly, I look at the top. I'm going to look at the top 10, and I know there's rumors, like one of the rumors from WalterFootball.com. No way the Texans trade with Buffalo to 9th. Apparently, that was talks that were happening, and
so 9 is too far down for whatever Texas is looking at.
Well, and I look at, to me, okay, well, if 9's too far, I say with Texans, I would say that 4-5 would be the lowest I would go because the Rams aren't going to take a quarterback. And, I mean, you have Jacksonville, Cleveland, and Oakland are 5. So it's like those teams are quarterback teams. So
I'm
you're
interested
competing.
to know if, St. Louis is going to be the one that is willing to trade back to 9. Because number 2 pick, whatever, you get one of the top 2 defensive players.
And this was an RG3 pick.
Yeah.
They traded this when they're like, fine, you want RG3, take it.
So, Buffalo can get at least one of the top 2 defensive players. That's going to be fine. I honestly think when it comes to the Texans saying 9's too far back, I think that says we got our eyes on one of those top 3 defensive players.
Yeah.
Wait, defensive or the quarterback?
No, I think they're going defense.
So you're saying like Khalil Mack, Jadeveon Clowney?
I think based off O'Brien's comments was we're going to take a quarterback eventually, and if he holds strong to that and resists Manziel's ridiculous pro day, yeah, it makes perfect sense. I'll trade back far enough as long as I'm still guaranteed one of the guys that's going to bolster up my defense. That's a really smart move. I like that idea, Mark. I really do.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because a fun thing about Johnny Manziel's pro day is it perfectly represents him. It's very showy. It's got some attitude to it. It's just
exactly
what Johnny
Manziel is.
Yeah, it's what his brand is. So not only is he putting these are my skills out on the table. It's also this is my brand. This is what I'm going to bring to that team.
I like the word choice that you just used, brand. Because really, when we think of these players, each player has their own brand. What do they bring to the table? And, I mean, even after watching some of the Gruden quarterback tapes, Mark, I think it was you that said, after hearing Teddy Bridgewater talk about why he sometimes wears gloves and doesn't wear gloves, you think he's high maintenance?
I mean, high maintenance is one way to put it. My thought was superstitious. I mean, he's got these things where if it's raining, I'll wear gloves. If I'm in Florida, I'm not going to wear gloves. Yeah, and I'm wearing the wide receiver gloves. I'm not going to have quarterback gloves. It was just, in me, I'm listening to this and going, there's a lot going on in your head that's not football.
Yeah, I think it just lacks confidence at that point. I mean, if you're so hung up on gloves or no gloves and what situation requires them and all this, you're thinking so much about that. I don't want my quarterback to be overthinking things that aren't relevant to him.
You know what?
Think about the game. Think about the play you're calling. Don't worry about if your glove is too tight or if you need to swap.
Then if I'm Jacksonville, I'm saying let's take him. He's from Miami. Doesn't need to wear gloves in Miami.
Well, you saw what happened when he didn't wear gloves at his pro day. He looked horrendous.
Yeah, but I mean, if he goes back to... He's going to wear the gloves, and then if it doesn't work, he's not going to wear them. I don't think it's that big of an issue with Teddy Bridgewater.
One thing, once it gets in your head, something gets in your head. We were talking about Mark Sanchez before, just moving over. Something gets in your head, it ruins it. Your play is gone.
I mean,
that's...
As far as quarterbacks go, I mean, you've got... And you got to remember, like, David Carr, how shell-shocked he was in Houston his first couple of years. That was a team so bad, and he was just absolutely throttled by defenses. The hits he took, I think he was just done from that point. So you don't want to put yourself in that position.
Well, and one of the last things that we'll talk about on the podcast, I don't want to bring it up because I'm a Vikings fan.
It makes you a little sad because there's a tear in your eye, Ricky.
Yeah.
We just talk about hitting quarterbacks, though.
It puts a no Sean Moreno tear in my eye.
That's a big tear.
Jared Allen... I was expecting him to go to Seattle. Okay, good. You know what? Get out of the division. What? You're a Bear? I woke up that day to one of my friends going, oh, I didn't see that coming. I'm like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah, I mean, even Jared Allen didn't quite see it coming. He himself said it was kind of a surprise. I guess it was just kind of a last minute thing. It was, hey, you know what? Jared Allen's still there. Hey, let's take a shot. Jay Cutler just restructured his deal.
Genius. Doesn't that look like a genius move now?
And the thing with Jay Cutler, too, is they give so much room to kind of do that flexibility. I think we're going to see that a lot.
It's like the new shirt I'm seeing, Wine 'em, Dine 'em, 69 'em. It's got a little silhouette of Jared Allen.
Henry Melton gone, we're going to be able to let him keep number 69. I'm really excited for this because it frees up that first pick. We don't have to go defensive line if we don't want to. We can go ahead and grab a safety. Replace Chris Conte, for the love of God.
Yeah, do the Bears now go, ha-ha, Clinton Dix, if he's there?
Maybe.
I'm okay with that still. I'm leaning against it, but yeah. I mean, there's a lot of options we have in that defense. I'm with you, though. I'm all for going safety. I really want to remove Chris Conte from the team.
I mean, he's only got 1 year left.
That's 1 year too many.
Before we give him one of those huge monster deals that he's obviously deserving.
Well, I mean, technically, Clinton Dix is listed on the mock drafts as a safety. 6'1", 208 pounds. He can play both.
Yeah.
He's probably going to be a cornerback. I don't see him being a safety. But I'm fine with any of it. I mean, I'll take Aaron Donald. I'm fine with that because especially as a guy...
From what I'm hearing, though, reports are that the Bears are looking a little bit like back, not saying, oh, you know what, we might not take Aaron Donald with that first pick.
It's fine. I mean, he's one of those guys who just kind of rose up out of nowhere.
You think Emery's going to left field us again?
I wouldn't be surprised. I'm waiting for the inevitable. Chicago Bears fans are pissed about our first round pick.
God knows I was last year, and he made me eat my words. And oh wow, yeah.
I think we're still kind of right on the Shea McClellan pick.
Yeah, I'm sorry. He was an outside linebacker, and he can't play contain at all. He knows how to go upfield. That's about it.
So maybe, it would speaking about, Shea McCollum being an outside linebacker, maybe they go grab Jernigan instead. He's a better nose tackle possibility.
Let me ask you about this, because you said you want to see the Bears draft a safety. How do you feel about Calvin Pryor, 5'11", 207-pound safety from Louisville?
I got one thing about that, and that's, as, I'm a Chicago Bears fan, I see what we can do on offense with tall wide receivers. I'm scared of guys on the defensive side who aren't tall enough to match up against, Megatron.
Yeah, but
there.
safeties aren't going to be the ones going one-on-one with
help.
the wideouts.
They gotta help. What exactly? They gotta help. What do
Screw
we
you,
see?
Conti.
What do we see out of a guy like Chris Conti? No help. No help at all because he just couldn't do it. We need somebody who can go out there and help, especially with older guys like Peanut Tillman. He's getting up there in age. Jennings as well, getting up there in age.
Tillman plays the man, not the ball, though. So you got to remember. I mean, for as many picks as he had,
and he plays that Peanut Tillman strip.
The punch.
The punch.
Peanut punch. So I mean, it's a team that with older guys, we need some safeties back there who can get up there and help, and not just play we're gonna sit 15 yards back and let you come to us.
But yeah, I mean, I'm loving the Bears move, and really, that was just bizarre. It was like, oh, one day.
And you got Lamar Houston on one side, he's going to stop some of that rush. You got Jared Allen on the other side, he's going to stop some pass.
Well, and
it's perfect.
I
Mark,
absolutely love the move.
Mark, you said it to me when I texted you about Jared Allen signing with the Bears. You were like, oh, well, let's just hope he doesn't have that stereotypical Bears decline once you get to Chicago.
Decline. Anytime anyone comes to Chicago.
Do you see that really happening?
No, I don't think so. I'm a little nervous about it because everyone was super excited when we got Peppers and it didn't quite pan out as we
Peppers
expected.
performed pretty well, but I think the fact that teams were able to double team him because of the lack of pressure on the other side of the line really hurt his numbers.
Because the last 2 years, Allen has averaged 12 sacks a season. It's been 3 years since his 22-sack season, and that was his highest. His highest before that was about 15 when he was with KC.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, especially with Lamar Houston on the other side, a guy who also demands quite a bit of respect. I don't know. I mean, obviously, teams are going to double-team Jared Allen because you don't not double-team Jared Allen. So, maybe that's going to help out Lamar Houston quite a bit. I'm interested to see, because what the Bears did with Julius Peppers was, hey, wherever you want to line up, go ahead. If you had to move somebody, you move them. I'm interested to see if Jared Allen's going to have that same type of freedom.
Well, and do you see, let me put it this way. I mean, with the Vikings, I kind of feel like the only good thing going into this is, okay, we have a new head coach. So Jared Allen can't be like, okay, this is what they're going to do because you don't know what's going to change. But let's say you got the Lions, their 2 running backs, Eddie Lacy. How is Jared Allen? Are wins and losses going to change from last season just because Jared Allen's on the defensive line now?
Stopping the run with Jared Allen doesn't get that much better, just because he's a guy who's going to get to the quarterback, not the running back.
I think the biggest difference I see is his motor. I mean, he's going to be on the field every down, and that's something Peppers couldn't do for us at the end. Peppers was resting at least one down out there, so to have somebody who's going to be on the field through injury, I mean, Allen's a tough dude. I mean, watching him play through injuries, through illness, he's always out there. I love his attitude. And he's a funny guy. Like, personality-wise, I think you hit the jackpot.
I loved him. When he was on the Vikings, everything he did with, like, the funny ESPN Sunday NFL countdowns, and he was just the humor guy.
And he's a good community guy, too. So he's one of the best guys in the NFL, I think. And that counts for a lot more than you can put into stats on the field. I mean, obviously, you need the stats to back it up, but it's good to know.
Well, that's going to do it here for the Onside Kick this week. Don't forget, check us out. I know we talk about football here on the Onside Kick, but check us out on our YouTube channel, MVP Sports Network. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/MVP Sports Network, and on Twitter at MVP Sports Real, where we cover everything in sports from baseball to basketball, even to football like we do here. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave your comments down below, and as always, have a good day, everybody.